Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today we are trying to build something from the television series Vikings. It's a pretty awesome show. It's been out for quite a while now, and in that particular show there is a king who is going to be crowned, and instead of it being just a regular boring crown like like that one we already made or that one, it is made out of crow's heads, and I thought probably the best way to do it would be to sculpt it and then to cast it. And since I made Yoda last week, I already had all the materials and had it all out, and as I was waiting on one thing to set up, I worked on this one as I went along, and kind of in between casting Yoda, I cast the skull, so it just worked together. So today we are going to build Boneless's crown, or our version of it, from Vikings. Let's get to building.
So after looking at a poster from season 5 of the TV show Vikings, I knew I had to build this crown. I found a 3D model of a crow skull in Sketchfab and began to plot out my attack. I am using some medium monster clay for this build. You heat it up in the oven and it becomes more pliable. While I wait, I decided to bust out my clay tools I bought on Amazon. So I start by making the basic shape by hand, trying to get it to relatively symmetrical. Should probably be wearing gloves to prevent the thing from having my fingerprints all over it. Once I got the basic shape I want, then I start using various tools to help me refine the shape and add detail. The looped wire helps to remove sections pretty easily, and the rubber tip tools help you to smooth out the transitions and all those fingertips I just mentioned earlier. I skipped this part on Baby Yoda, so I figured I would show you how easy it is to make a box to house your mold for pouring. Put the item on your materials. I'm using some corrugated plastic, and give yourself a little bit of allowance on every side of your prop. You don't want the walls of your mold to be too thin. I'm hot gluing the mess out of this thing. Anywhere I can fit my glue gun in, I'm adding it on the seams. I'm trying to prevent the mold material from leaking out because it's expensive and I don't want to waste any. Hot glue sticks are only a few cents, so I'm fine wasting these extra little bits on this step. I didn't want to lose any detail on the bottom of my skull, so I added these screws to help elevate it from the bottom. These would later act as ports to help get rid of air bubbles also. Like in the Baby Yoda build, I'm using some EcoFlex 0020 for the mold material. It's a very flexible consistency and helps me to kind of limit the amount of seams I had. I pulled 10 casts off of it so far and had clean pulls every time. Just follow the instructions on the box, it's pretty straightforward. This mold material has a setup time of about 4 hours, so it was pretty easy to mix up another batch to top it off. Make sure you wear gloves while you're working with these chemicals. They are not great for your skin and they can get quite sticky. Now I pull apart the walls of the box and cut the mold to pull out the clay. When working down to your object, cut in a zigzag pattern. This helps as a registration structure when you try to align the edges back up for casting. I add a little mold release to the mold to prevent the smooth cast from sticking. This will give me a cleaner release on the casting, and it'll extend the life of the mold for reuses. I already have my eye on some Skyrim props that need some bird skulls. After 10 minutes, it's ready to come out of the mold. Because this resin has a thermal reaction, be careful while you're pulling it out. It can get pretty hot. I have a couple of holes I need to drill out. The ones in the nose are purely aesthetic. The holes I am drilling through the eyes and the back of the jaw will give me a space to run wire through for assembly later. After a quick sanding, I hit them with a few shades of white and brown spray paint. The pink skull you see here was me testing a resin dye I picked up. The paint job is pretty simple. Dark washes with some watered down acrylic paint to show off the details, and dry brushing lighter colors on the top to hit the high points and give some contrast. Assembly was a bit of work. I ran 2 wires through each skull. I tried some thin wire at first, which didn't hold up very well, so I moved up to some fencing wire, which was what I ended up using at the end.
And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out okay. I had a lot of issues with this particular build. With Yoda building it at the same time, it's my first real casting and using clay. I just kind of did them all together when one was resting and setting up. I worked on the other, so definitely a learning experience, and I think I got some new skills in. The one in show has more crows than mine does. It's got like a kind of staggered look to it, whereas mine's just kind of side by side. So my crow heads are a lot bigger than the ones they used on the show, which is typical of me making things a little too big, but I've got a ginormous head, so it's whatever. But I don't really consider this to be that much of a success because it's not something practical that you could wear. It's probably something that's going to sit on a shelf somewhere, so it is what it is. Maybe you'll try and make this crow crown yourself and impress your friends with your ability to make some super heavy but semi-detailed looking crown. Yeah, you get the point. Maybe you'll get some, and inevitably they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these, tell them much props. I guess you can see me. Peace out.